Hello, so now we'll see a fantastic and exciting future is Ipervi. You know that I'm using a lot of virtualization in my work every day, and there is not only VMware in life, of course. You will see that there is four big solutions in virtualization. Okay, let's see all these solutions. Okay, the first one is Microsoft Ipervi. Okay, this is the one we'll talk about. Okay, so Microsoft Ipervi is a way that you can run VM, okay, on your host, physical host. Okay, we have after VMware vSphere. Okay, this is very known. Okay, VMware vSphere is a server virtualization. It's exactly what I'm using when I do my lab. Okay, so this is VMware. You have also Xen server. I have also a training Xen server on my website. So this is Xen server, of course, and the last one is Nutanix Acropolis. Okay, so this is hyperconvergence, and this is one that's very known. It's hyperconvergent infrastructure software Nutanix iOS. Okay, so but we will focus on Ipervi. Okay, so we'll see what is Ipervi, how we use Ipervi, and how you can enable and use Ipervi and install it on a VM. It's very, very nice. So the Ipervi server roles provide you with a virtualization computer environment to create, configure, and manage VM. Okay, so it's important to understand key features provided by Ipervi in Windows Server. So in this lesson, you will learn how to use Ipervi. You also learn best practice for configure Windows Server hosts and consideration related to deployment scenarios, such as nested virtualization. So Ipervi, okay, role in Windows Server provide virtualization to support VM, okay? And when you will have to prepare your Ipervi, you will have to have storage and networking. And Ipervi allow you to subdivide the hardware capacity of a single physical host computer and allocate the capacity to multi-VM. More memory you have, more CPU you have, more VM you can have. Each VM has its own operating system that runs independently on the Ipervi host or another VM. It's not like container or Docker. We'll see what is Docker after. So when you install the Ipervi server role, a software layer known as an hypervisor is inserted into the boot process. And the hypervisor is responsible for controlling access to the physical hardware. Hardware drivers are installed only in the host operating system, also known as the parent partition. All the VM communicate only with virtualization hardware. So the operating system running in VM are guest operating system. Ipervi in Windows Server 2019 support the following guest operating system: all Windows, Linux edition like CentOS, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, Debian, Oracle Linux, SUSE, and Ubuntu, and FreeBSD. So, why you are using Ipervi today? Because of course you know that you cannot buy physical server like 100 physical server and on all physical server inside Windows 2019. Okay, it's going to be too expensive. So what you do is that you consolidate your server infrastructure. So you will use less space and consume less energy. You provide a virtual development or test deployment. You can establish a virtual desktop infrastructure, VDI. This is very nice, known as with remote desktop virtualization. And you can implement a private cloud infrastructure. Okay, so what are the requirements? If you want to install Ipervi on Windows Server, you have two choices. Either you install it on a physical host. For example, you buy an IBM or a Dell or HP server, and what you will do is that you will install Ipervi. To install Ipervi, you need 2019. It can be in Core Edition, or you can download only Ipervi. So to support VM running production application, you must carefully assess the capacity required for your VM and plan your Ipervi host accordingly. You also need to consider needs such as high availability. So you will need a 64 byte processor with second level address translation. You need a processor with VM monitor mode extension. You must have memory for itself and for guest VM. And you must have an Intel virtual technology, Intel VT or AMD VT enabled. And you must have hardware unforeseen data execution depth enabled in the BIOS. You can verify this by running system info. The output has an Ipervi section to identify whether the requirements are met or not. In addition, you will need, of course, processor. More processor power you have, most VM you can run. You must have enough memory. You must have a storage to store your VHD. The VHD can be stored locally on your hard disk, but of course the best practice is to store it on a shared storage like a SAN or a NAS. And you must have enough network capacity in the Ipervi to allocate to the VM. In some case, you might need to allocate network adapter in the host for different purposes. So, how can you do that? To install Ipervi, you add the role. But what happens if you don't have physical server and you want to test Ipervi? For that, you will need to enable nested virtualization. Okay? Nested virtualization is a way that you can, for example, install. You can install directly on Ipervi. Okay, you can have a VM and install it directly in the VM. So I will show you first how to enable nested virtualization. So we will boot an Ipervi server, and inside it we will create some VM. So stay tuned for the fantastic demonstration. Bye. So I want to install Ipervi. I don't have any physical host, so you have two solutions. Either you install Ipervi on a physical host. Okay. Actually, I don't have Ipervi. On my physical host, what I have is VMware. Okay. So if I need to deploy to be able to install Ipervi on a VM, I must click on the hardware virtualization, expose hardware assisted virtualization to the guest OS. Okay. This is very important. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a new VM here. Remember that you can do it with Ipervi, okay, if you want, but I have VMware. I'm going to create a new VM, create a VM, and let's say that this VM, the name will be Ipervi1. Okay, so it will be an Ipervi, so I'm going to just select Windows, and here I'm going to select Windows 2016 or later. I go to next here. I'm going to say, okay, I want this here, and this will be the big work here. So I'm going to go in CPU, I'm going to put 4 CPU, and I'm going to put 12 gig of memory. And the hard disk, I want to say 200, and I will go here, and I will say fin provisioning. And on CPU, what I will do is that I will export virtualization, otherwise it will not work. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add 2 network controller. Okay, normally you must have more than that. Okay, so I'm going to go on add network adapter, and here I have 2 of them internal. Okay, so they are on my internal one, and that's it. So after that, I need to go on my data store. I will go on ISO, and I will install 2019 on it. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so this is the first one here. Okay, and do next and finish. And I'm going to install a second Ipervi server. It's like a physical server, remember, but it's just on a VM, and I will install Ipervi on this VM. Okay, so I create a new VM here, and I'm going to choose here Ipervi2. Wow, amazing. So I will go here. I will go next, same thing here, customize setting here, I will put 4 and also 12 gig of memory, 200 hard disk. I will go here and I will say fin provisioning. I will go to my CPU, export this so I can install Ipervi on a VM, and I will add 2 network card here. I will go on my CD, and I will go on my data store now, and choose 2019 here, and we'll do next and finish. So I have now 2 VM. It's like if I have, for example, 2 physical hosts, okay? But I will install Ipervi inside this VM, okay? So I will go here and I'm gonna run the installation of 2019 on the first server, okay? I'm gonna push button to install it, okay? And I think I must do it again. I was not fast enough to do that. So let me do it again, reset. Okay, go here and just run. Okay, that's good. So this is the first Ipervi. I'm going to do the same thing for the second one. I'm going to open it and press on any key to boot, and that's it. So let's go on our first server. So it's like if it was a physical server. Okay, I'm going to just choose everything here. Next, install now. And I will install the 2 server. Okay, so when the 2 server will be installed correctly, I will show you how to enable nested virtualization inside this server. See you in just 10 minutes. Ciao. Okay, my server are actually starting. So this is the first one, and the second one is the installation is just in progress. So I think that this server will be installed soon. So let's make a small break. Okay, so I have this server. Okay, so this server is just a VM I created with VMware. You can do the same thing with VMware Workstation or Ipervi on your Windows 10. But in the meantime, I have just used this VM. Okay, so just imagine that this VM is a physical server. Okay, so I'm just going to connect to this server. Okay. Cool. So I have this Ipervi server. So just some information about Ipervi. Okay, remember that you need processor, memory, storage, and network. Okay, so to install the roles, you can just go on Ipervi and install the role that you want here. Okay, server manager. So it's very simple. So if you can see here in my server, okay, I will set an IP address. Okay, why? Because actually I am in a dynamic IP address. So I'm going to go on my AD here and find with IPAM or another solution. Okay, I'm not going to use IPAM, but you know that IPAM is something we saw. It's for IP address management. I'm going to find an IP address. Okay, so let's go on my DNS here server. Let's do a nice refresh. Okay, and here I can see all my address here. Okay, so I can click on data here, and I can see all my address here. Okay, so I have 125. I'm not going to put it in the same scope than my DHCP. Of course, I'm not. I will pay attention about that. So if I go here in my scope, I will see what is my scope actually. Okay, so I think it's 200 to 220. So let's see my scope here. So no, I don't need this one. I need to go here in my pool. Here is my pool. So 1220 to 250. Okay, so okay, that's clear. Okay, so I have here my address. I have my red here, my green. Okay, so but this is with the with my DHCP here. I think so. It's my DHCP. Yes, it must be with my DHCP here. So I'm going to create a new one. So I would say that my Ipervi one will be what it could be. I want to be sure that I'm not going to make any mistake. Was it here? It was 220 to 250. 220 to 250. So AD, I can put, for example, let's say 128.168, and I'm going to say 170. Okay, I have 71 here, so maybe I'm going to 180. Okay, so 180 needs to be good. Okay, let's see if I have this address which is free. 192.168.180. Okay, let's try to see if he's found it now. Okay, and let's do RPA to see if I have 180 somewhere, because if I have 180, I have firewalls blocking. Okay, so that's good. So let's go to my Ipervi one here. Okay, and let's change it to 180. So I'm going to go here in my setting, internet tier connection, change that option, and I'm going to change it for this one. Okay, so this one will be, okay, 192.168.180. My default gateway will be 121.161.1. I think it's correct. Let me be sure about that. Let's do a CMD. I don't like CMD. Normally I prefer PowerShell, but okay, doesn't matter. So it's going to be 111. Okay, that's good. And my DC will be 168.1 this and 100. Okay, I think it's good. Let me be sure about that. It's better to double check. DNS server, yeah, that's it. Okay, so this one will be 180. Cool. And I will change the name of my server. That's going to be better. So server manager, and I'm going to change the name of my server here. So the name of my server is something that I don't like at all, so I'm going to change it. I want to say that this server is Ipervi1, and I will put it in my domain. It's a best practice, okay? You can put it in a work group, but a domain is so nice, okay? Even vCenter, you know, you put it in a domain. So I'm going to type my name of my fluctuation.it.lab here, and I will type my administrator and my password. Cool. Okay, and this is my password. So this server will be the first domain, the first Ipervi server. Okay, so I'm going to do a reboot now. Okay, that's cool. And I will do the same thing for the second Ipervi server. Okay, so stay tuned. So here's my first server here. Okay, so this server is like a physical server, remember? And I will install the Ipervi role. Okay, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here, and voila, Ipervi. Wow, fantastic. And he will install my Ipervi module for PowerShell and the GUI here. And he would react like if it was a physical server. Okay, so normally after that, if you do next, he will not display a warning message saying that you cannot install it because it's not a physical server, because he hasn't found a VT, but it's working correctly. So I'm going to do here, and he asks me which Ethernet connection will be used to communicate with other computer. It's the first one, okay? I put next here, next here. This is where I would put my hard disk. Normally I would put my hard disk on a shared volume, of course, not here. And I would do install, and you see I didn't have any warning message saying that I cannot install Ipervi because it's not, he didn't find the VT enable, or it's not a physical host. So cool. I'm gonna do the same thing with the second Ipervi. So this one. So this is my second server. I have set up an IP address 81, and I'm gonna connect with my fluctuation IT. Okay, here, fluctuation IT, the best training center of the world. No, I'm kidding. Well, I can do some advertising, huh? So here's my second Ipervi, and same thing. I'm going to go in Server Manager and install it. I can install it if I want differently. Okay, so this one, if I want, I can install it with PowerShell. But I prefer to do it here with my GUI to install with PowerShell. You just do install Windows Feature Name, Ipervi, computer name, include management tool, and do a restart. Okay, but I prefer really to do it graphically if I can, so I can see exactly what is happening. So I'm going to use my Ipervi, same thing than the other one. Okay, so normally I will not have any warning message saying that I cannot install Ipervi. Okay, and this is okay. Virtual switch will be the, let me see, I want to be sure about what I'm doing. must be the Ethernet 0, okay? So the first one. Okay, let's go network sharing and change adapter. So it's this one, okay? I can see that because this one has a static IP here and the Ethernet one has a dynamic IP. So see, so I'm going to use this one. So it's the first one, the 0 one. Okay, so it's going to be this one. Okay, next, and install. And that's all. So let's jump to our first Ipervi to see how is the configuration. Fantastic. So I'm going to do close, and you're going to see that he will do normally a restart. Okay, so if I wait a little, normally he will do the restart automatically. Okay, just wait some second, but normally he will do the restart. Let me see. Okay. Oh, you must restart. Okay, so I must do it. So we do restart here, and you will see that he will install behind the operating system, see update the Ipervi. Okay, so same thing here on Ipervi 2. Okay, he has installation started. So I must wait. Let's go back to my Ipervi 1. And I see that he's actually installing Ipervi 1. Okay, so let's do a small break. So we can see that here in Ipervi, here I have Ipervi Manager. Remember that you have two ways to manage Ipervi. You have the PowerShell, you have the Server Manager here. Okay, so if I go here, I can see that now I have Ipervi Manager. Woohoo! So this is like a physical server. Okay. Oh, that's good. Okay. So that's terrific. So I can see that I have my Ipervi Manager here. Okay, I can go here. I can see that I can create new VM, Ipervi setting, Virtual Switch Manager. So I can see all my virtual switch. I have actually a public one here, and it's connected to the external world. I have my Ipervi setting here, so I can see where he's storing my disk and this setting. I have the NUMA, lab migration, storage migration. So I have so many things here, very interesting. Okay, so if I want, I can go here and create new VM. Okay, I don't have any ISO, but I'm just going to show you that I can create a VM. So I'm going to go here. Let's try VM1. I'm going to store it here. Normally, I don't store it here, never. All the time, generation 2. Okay, this is very important. We'll see after why. Let's put 1 gig of memory. And I'm going to say that I'm connected to this virtual switch, of course, and I'm going to create this VM, and I will install operating system after. So after, if I go here on my VM, it has been created. Okay, so I can do connect here. Okay, and I can start it if I want, and here is my VM. Okay, but I don't have any ISO, so of course I must turn off here. I must have an ISO of Windows 2019, of course. So I just downloaded the trial version of Windows 2019. So he's actually downloading my version here. I can see my view download here. Okay, so he's downloading at 98 megabyte per second, so it's very speed. And after that, I can create some VM if I want here. Okay, so I have now 2 hosts here. My first host here with the Ipervi 1. Let's put it like that. So this is my first one, and I have my second Ipervi. I'm going to put it like this here, and this is my second Ipervi. Okay, so if I go here and I connect to my second Ipervi, okay, I'm going to put it a little smaller, so like this you can see the 2 of them. This is the magic of virtualization. Okay, and I'm going to connect to my second Ipervi here. So normally in a company, when you're using Ipervi on physical hosts, of course, not like I'm doing actually. When you're a production, you don't install your production on VM, of course. You have 2 Ipervi all the time. It's very important because if your VM here crash, if this server crash, all the VM will go away. So you will have to create a cluster. Remember, we created a cluster of iSCSI server. I don't know if you remember. So we can use this one in order to do the work. So if I go to tools here, I can see Ipervi Manager here, and I have exactly the same now view, okay, here and here. That's fantastic. So I have Ipervi 1 and Ipervi 2 here. So here now that I have my my Windows here, what I can do is that I can create my first VM, okay? So let's stop this video and create another one to see how you can create a VM. Thank you very much.